Russia has launched a drone and missile attack on the Ukrainian capital. Explosions were heard throughout the night in Kyiv. At least 15 people have been injured and several buildings damaged. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says it shows that Moscow is dragging out the war. Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine are expected to exchange a second group of prisoners later on Saturday. On Friday, the two sides handed about 390 prisoners of war from each side, including 120 civilians. It's the largest exchange of the three-year war so far. Last week, both sides agreed to swap 1,000 prisoners each during talks in Istanbul. Okay, let's go to John Hendren. He's live for us in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. John, before we get into the prisoner exchange, can you talk us through, firstly, the latest attacks that we've seen in Kyiv?
Well, many of us here in the city center awoke between 4 and 5 a.m. to the sounds of booms. Those were missiles and drone explosions and anti-aircraft fire, the answering fire from Ukraine. And this happened in an unusually large attack. The mayor of Kyiv says it is a massive enemy attack on the capital. 15 people were injured. Those attacks left apartment blocks and other buildings flaming. And around the region and elsewhere, 128 of the 250 drones were shot down, according to Ukrainian officials. And they also say they shot down 6 out of 14 missiles. But this is an acceleration of the attacks on the capital as Russian forces also seek to move incrementally forward on the eastern front. There were several people killed in the Donetsk region and to the south in Odessa. So on the Russian side, they're definitely stepping up their attacks. But the Ukrainians have also been stepping up their attacks on Russia itself, launching a number of drone attacks in recent days that have shut down air travel. So both sides, as they talk about possibly a ceasefire coming up and a peace negotiation, seem to be trying to solidify their gains in advance of that.
And on a more positive note, we have the largest prisoner exchange of the war so far. Significant moment for both sides?
That's right. This is day 2 of what we believe will be 3 days of prisoner exchanges with a total of 1,000 prisoners on each side. On Friday, we saw 270 troops and 120 civilians return here to Ukraine, and the same number returning to Russia. And Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, says that will continue here on Saturday and on Sunday. And that was the one thing that Zelensky says came out of the talks in Turkey a week ago. He said essentially nothing was accomplished there. He had hoped for that to be a meeting between himself and Vladimir Putin of Russia, but instead it was lower level officials, and they essentially agreed on nothing except this prisoner exchange. And that's a big step because they will be celebrated here in Ukraine, for example, as symbols of resiliency, returned heroes in the Ukrainians' eyes. So that is the one big accomplishment for both sides out of that Turkish agreement.
Thank you so much for that, John Hendren, there for us in Kyiv.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.